Alrighty, Raider Nation, it is the day after the commotion, the explosion, the volcano that was the opening day of free agency and the mass exodus of starting players from this team. And the Raiders now have some replacements for those players, but we also have some young players that are also on the team. And so now they're finally going to get a chance to see what they're really about. And I'm excited for that. But what I want to talk about in today's video is none other than the draft, because now the free agency, although it's not done, the big deals are done. And so there may be a few additions here of guys that are lingering out in the free agency, but you're not expecting a whole lot from them. No star player is lingering in the free agency any longer. All those deals have pretty much been locked up and are a done deal. So we're not going to talk about too much of the free agency unless something major happens, but I want to talk about what's next for the Raiders. And that's only a little over a month away, and that is the NFL draft for 2025. Now, the Raiders, as we know, sit at pick number 6, and there's a lot of things that the Raiders could do. One of the things, as I said yesterday, grabbing Geno Smith in a trade with Seattle, and I know there are a lot of hard feelings about that. Trust me, I've read the comments. We could have had Sam Darnold. He's only 27. We're going to give the same money to a 35-year-old in Geno Smith. I totally get it. But if you go and you look at the Seattle Seahawks fan base and what they're writing on X and stuff, they're saying the same damn thing, only in reverse. They're saying, why would you give up Geno Smith for Sam Darnold when he's never been good in the NFL and only had one good season, and that was with Minnesota? We're not going to win more than 5 games this year. Good job, GM and head coach in Seattle. So listen, the proof is in the pudding. Until you put the work out on the field, we don't really know what this team is going to be in 2025. But what we do know is you don't make a trade for a quarterback like Geno Smith and then think anything other than he's going to be the starting quarterback. So let's go ahead and put that one to rest. Geno Smith is QB1 until he either gets hurt or he is just so bad with the Raiders this year that he eventually gets benched. But even if that happens, it probably wouldn't be until week number 5 or 6. But let's just assume, since all of that is done, that the Raiders now do not need to draft a quarterback. They don't have to reach to draft a quarterback. So what I'm saying here is this. The Raiders have their quarterback for the next couple of years. You can wait to draft a quarterback next year. And if you want to move up, sell the farm to get your quarterback next year, you could do that. What you could do with the pick number 6 is, instead of using that on like a Jackson Dart, who is, as much as all of us love Jackson Dart and would love to see him on the Raiders, the dude is not a top 10 quarterback. I am sorry to tell you. I have watched his game tape. He is good, and he has a lot of potential, but he is not. I mean, if he was in last year's draft class, the dude probably would be a third-round quarterback. And so right now, to draft him in anything other than the second round would be a waste. Like, if you draft him in the first round, to me, that's a bust. Now, I could be wrong, because unfortunately I was wrong about Bo Nix, and he turned out to be pretty good. And I was saying last year that he was a second-round quarterback. So I did get that one wrong. But I did get a couple of things right. Number one, Vtoman solar. As you can see back here, I got the Vtoman 1800 solar generator. It's powering the studio, which is still under construction, and it's going to remain under construction because I'm only one guy and it takes me forever to do anything while still trying to run the Raider D podcast and all the other things that I have to do in life. But thanks to Vtoman and the solar panels that you've seen outside of my other videos, and this is the power station right here. Link is in the description. You can also see it in the video. If you hit the shopping cart, I'll have them in the shopping cart. You can go and check them out right now. Guys, please go and check them out. Make sure you have some solar backup, even if it's just, a little peace of mind. But if you're out camping, if you're out doing any type of activity, whether it be construction, camping, a day at the beach with the family, and you need some power, the Jump 1800, that's the golden ticket. So go check them out. Thanks, Vtoman, for being a sponsor of the channel. Some other things that I've gotten right was when I told you guys for sure that Malcolm Kuntz wanted to stay a Raider and that he was working with the Raiders and the Raiders were working with him to get a deal done. And I remember seeing a few comments that I erased because there's no negativity allowed here on the Raider D podcast. But basically, I'll just regurgitate them to you. Oh, Raider D, you don't know what you're talking about. You don't have a real source. You don't know anything about Malcolm Kuntz. You're a liar, blah, 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 blah. Well, guess what? I was right, 100%. I also told you Nate Hobbs was not going to come back to the Raiders. He was going to go to the highest bidder. According to my insider source, he was out the door. And sure enough, he was gone. So, some things I do get right. I don't get everything right, and I never claim to get everything right. And I am not an expert on every single team in the NFL. I am focused, laser focused on one team and one team only, and that is this team, the Silver and Black, the Raiders. Just win, baby. That's what I'm focused on. So if you like that type of content and not a bunch of fluff coming from other fan bases that are just trying to jump on the Raider bandwagon, but they got Detroit Lions posters up behind them, or they wear Saints jerseys, make sure you hit that subscribe button and the like button because I appreciate it. And consider becoming a member. The cheapest one is $2.99. Don't you want to buy your boy Raider D a cup of coffee so that when I wake up in the morning, I am energized and ready to make you some Raiders content? Go ahead and hit that join button now if you wouldn't mind. It really helps us keep this going, and I really appreciate it. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. Now that I had to go through all that spin. Here's what we're going to do. In my opinion, I think that the Raiders are set on Geno Smith. We don't have an ex-receiver. And the best receiver in this draft is Tet McMillan. And this is a difficult draft because there's some good wide receivers that are going to come out that will be available in the second round. But Tet, he's going to be top 10. He's off the board. He is a really good wide receiver. I think that if he was in last year's draft, he probably would have been the third one overall taken off of the board. That's saying a lot because last year was pretty deep when it comes to the wide receiver draft class. This year is not as deep. McMillan is definitely the best. But do you need an ex-wide receiver when you have Brock Bowers? I mean, in reality, isn't Brock Bowers kind of your ex-wide receiver? I mean, he plays like that. I know he doesn't line up in the X position most of the time. Sometimes he does. But when you have a phenomenal receiver like that, and you have a competent 1,000+ yard receiver in Jacoby Myers, and you have a speed demon in Trey Tucker, do you really need to go wide receiver at pick number 6? I say not. I say you don't need to do that. Now listen, Aaron Jones re-signed with the Minnesota Vikings, so he's off the table. So as far as veteran running backs go, there's really nobody out there that's going to come and make a big difference. So you're going to have to get your running game going from the draft. And the great thing is about running backs coming out of the draft is they're pretty much day one ready. Like first or second round draft picks at the running back position, they're going to be day one ready. And so I think at pick number 6, the Raiders really need to be strategic here. Maybe you trade back a couple of spots and you get next year's first round draft pick. That way you could get your quarterback next year. And you still end up with Ashton Jeanty if you play it correctly. Now, I said earlier that the Raiders should trade back with the Jets. The Jets would probably go at quarterback. They have a lot of needs on their team. Probably not going to draft an Ashton Jeanty. You could get their next year's first round draft pick and their number 7 draft pick, and boom, there you go. You now have 2 draft picks in the first round next year that you can use to trade up and get your quarterback of the future, whether that be a Manning or one of these other quarterbacks that will be available next year. I think that would be the ultimate plan. However, the Jets just signed Justin Fields. But they didn't sign him to a long-term future contract, and Justin Fields is hit and miss. He may turn out to be a Sam Darnold this year. He may just end up being, another Sam Howell or, one of those guys. where they're just not going to pan out at the Jets. The Jets are going to chew them up, spit them out, and they're going to move on. So in my opinion, I think if Shedeur Sanders is sitting there at pick number 6, the Raiders should absolutely trade back to the Jets, knowing that the Jets are probably going to draft him in order to make sure that they have a backup plan if Justin Fields ain't there. You get next year's first round draft pick, and then you draft Ashton Genty. Boom, there's your running. It's all solved. Again, you go offensive line in the second and the third round, and then you fill out the rest of the needs throughout the rest of the draft. If you guys agree, disagree, drop comments down below. Let me know how you feel about it, and make sure that you hit that subscribe button. Let's go, Raiders!